This year, I turned 68. After 42 years of marriage, life has become quiet. Not peaceful, not beautiful, but simply stagnant. I no longer care about polished shoes or sparkling earrings. The woman I once was, the one who fussed over dinner menus and meticulously applied lipstick, has long disappeared. I always thought that if I invested everything in my family, they would one day return that love tenfold, that when they no longer needed me, I could finally live for myself. But now I wonder, did they ever really need me? Or was I just convenient? My house is immaculate. Every shelf is dusted, every cushion is in place, every window is clean. I did all of it. And yet, standing in the living room under the soft amber light, I feel only a cold emptiness seeping through the walls. My daughter, Olivia, attracts a lot of attention online. In her latest viral videos, she portrays herself as the perfect daughter, caring for her elderly mother. Her followers are thrilled. And so today, she planned an early birthday celebration. Not for me, not exactly. For the camera, for the comments. I didn't know it yet, but that morning was about to change everything. Saturday morning burst into the silence with the clatter of pots and pans. A sound completely foreign to my home, especially at that hour. Walter usually leaves for his morning walk before the sun even touches the curtains. And until noon, the house is silent, like a chapel. But that morning, something was off. I emerged from the bedroom, rubbing a throbbing pain in my temples, and saw my grandson, Owen, sprawled on the sofa. His little fingers were glued to a tablet, from which some senseless cartoon blared. He didn't even glance at me when I said hello. Drawn by the smell of garlic and spices, I entered the kitchen. There stood Olivia and her husband, Justin, cutting, stirring, plating, and of course, filming. Always filming. The table was already groaning with food: roasted meats, succulent lobster tails, chili braised beef, shrimp swimming in garlic butter. It looked impressive, but my smile faltered. I haven't been able to chew such meat for years. The mere thought of struggling with all that fatty food with my dentures made my jaw ache. "Do we have guests?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light. Olivia, without looking up, waved her hand dismissively. "Mom, did you forget? We're filming your birthday today. I'll post it on Monday. More views during the week." I froze. My birthday is on Tuesday. Isn't today Tuesday? But I nodded. I convinced myself that they were probably just very busy. Maybe this early celebration was the best they could offer. Not ideal, of course, but at least they remembered. I approached the table and glanced at the dishes again. Nothing I could eat without suffering. No salad, no soft bread, nothing warm and tender, not even tea. And then it hit me. A few weeks ago, I told Walter that all I really wanted this year was a slice of orange cake. Soft sponge, light icing, nothing fancy, just something I could enjoy. He promised he would buy it. And here he came, sweaty after his run, still clutching his enormous gym bottle. And I waited. But his hands were empty. No box, no cake. And I understood everything. "Where's the orange cake I asked you to buy?" I asked directly, not looking away. He just shrugged in response. "I ran into Brenda on the way. She said she really wanted it, so I gave it to her. I'll buy you another one tomorrow." Tomorrow. The eternal tomorrow. Later, later. Or his favorite. "You're exaggerating." As if my birthday meant nothing. As if Brenda's fleeting desire outweighed my only request. Silence fell in the room, so thick it felt like you could touch it. Even Olivia paused for a second, but immediately grabbed her phone. "Oh, yeah. We need a shot with a cake. I'll order one for the video now. Not for me. For the damn video. Something inside me snapped. And this time, the crack didn't heal. Not with time, not with excuses. Because at that very moment, with painful clarity, I realized not a single person in this room actually cares about me. I sat, numb, watching their hustle and pretense in oppressive silence. Olivia adjusted the camera, her movements sharp and mechanical. Justin arranged the plates, striving to create an illusion of abundance while avoiding disorder. Walter still stood by the door, pretending his inattentiveness, his forgetfulness, meant nothing. His face wore a forced indifference, but I saw the corner of his lip twitch nervously. And then she said it. "Owen, stop. Don't touch the food. I haven't started filming yet. And when the camera turns, on. Remember what we rehearsed, okay? Smile. Sit up straight. Say exactly what we practiced." He groaned, but obeyed. I watched all of this as if detached from the outside. The child was forced to say thank you. The father disregarded his wife's only birthday wish. The daughter created her own version of love for strangers on the internet. My birthday had become content. Then Olivia raised her glass. "Mom, today is your special day. No matter how busy life gets, we always make time for family. It's our tradition." Her voice was syrupy, saccharine, too sweet, artificial, as if it had been auto-tuned in the very app she would use to edit the video. I froze. The warmth that her words should have carried didn't reach me. I looked down at my plate of food that I couldn't eat, at the tea cooling in my hands, at the room where I had spent decades raising the people who had now turned me into a prop. And then Owen spoke his lines. "Grandma, thank you for always taking care of me. I love you. Happy birthday. I wish you health and happiness." A rote phrase, rehearsed to the point of automation, as if read from a greeting card. I looked at my grandson, at his childish face, struggling to feign love. And then it dawned on me. It wasn't his fault. He was simply copying what he had seen, what he had been taught. And then something clicked inside me. Not out of anger, but out of a sudden clarity. I wasn't going to sit here and force a smile, watching this charade any longer. I carefully placed my cup on the table, picked up my chopsticks, and deliberately dropped them on the table. The sound echoed in the room, like a pin dropping in a church. I looked directly at Walter. "So, where is the orange cake, Walter?" Silence filled the room. Even the cartoon on Owen's tablet seemed deafeningly loud. Walter blinked. His response was slow, lazy, dismissive. "Like I said, Brenda wanted it. I'll buy you another one tomorrow." I smiled, but it wasn't the kind of smile you'd use in an advertisement. "You gave the only thing I asked for to a woman who isn't your wife on the day you pretend to celebrate my birthday." Olivia tried to intervene, attempting to salvage the situation. "Mom, don't be upset. We can order another one right now. It'll look even better on camera." I turned to her, and my voice, quiet but sharp, like a blade, cut through the silence. "Olivia, do you even know what I like to eat?" She blinked, opened her mouth, but no sound came out. That's when I realized. They had never truly known me. Not as a person, but only as the role I played. And that role was over. I looked around the table, the camera, the food, the strained smiles, and felt something changing inside me. Not rage, but a strange stillness, a clarity I had been missing. Walter scoffed and leaned back in his chair. "Come on, Evelyn. Look at all this. You're being treated like a queen. You should be grateful." Grateful for a room full of food I couldn't eat? For a birthday filmed for strangers? For a cake that never arrived? For a husband who always put the comfort of others above mine? Grateful, I repeated, not asking, just letting the words settle on my tongue like a bitter lemon. Things I always kept in my head popped into my memory. Walter's aversion to vinegar, Olivia's allergy to peaches, Justin's hatred of cilantro, Owen's pickiness with chicken skin. Every dish I cooked, every plate I served, I adapted for them. But about me, no one even knew. That I couldn't eat steak. Not that they had forgotten. They just didn't care enough to remember. I looked at Walter again. Funny, isn't it? How you always know what Brenda likes. Her favorite cake, her favorite desserts. You even took baking lessons for her, didn't you? His smile vanished instantly. Olivia frowned. What does she have to do with this? And then I said it. Clearly, deliberately, and with all the strength I had. Walter, I want a divorce. Silence enveloped the room like a heavy blanket. No one moved. The only sound was the whirring of the camera, still recording in the corner. Walter scoffed dismissively. Evelyn, don't be ridiculous. You're not 25. You're almost 70. A divorce over a cake? No, I replied, my voice trembling with suppressed rage. Over everything. Over the years of being unseen, of being used, of being convenient, over the smiles I forced, over the silence I swallowed, over the sacrifices I buried. Olivia jumped up, her voice rising to a shriek. Mom, what are you doing? This is my content. People are waiting for this video. We already made the announcement. I turned to her slowly, pain and determination swirling in my eyes. Your content? This is my life, Olivia, and I'm no longer going to play the version of Mom you wrote for your followers. Walter muttered under his breath. You're acting crazy. Brenda has been through so much. What's wrong with giving her some cake? What about me? I said louder. Don't I deserve a little kindness? Just one day a year when someone thinks of me? His face twisted with disdain. You're being dramatic. But I didn't flinch. For the first time in my life, I wasn't asking, not pleading. I was deciding. The room didn't explode. It quietly imploded, like a paper house folding in on itself. And I rose from the table, knowing one thing for sure. I finally remembered who I was. I walked out of that house with only a small suitcase and a long-awaited sense of freedom. Walter followed me to the door, his voice sharp and cold, warning I'd regret this at my age. Olivia screamed after me, begging me not to ruin the family image. But I didn't turn back. I couldn't. If I looked back, I might break under the weight of 40 years of silence and sacrifice. Instead, I drove straight to the place that had always felt like home. My mother's old cottage, a tiny house tucked away in a quiet corner of town, untouched since she'd passed. The air hung thick with the scent of old wood, dust, and faint memories. But as I threw open the curtains, letting in the sunlight, and set about scrubbing the windows, scouring the floors, cleaning every creaking tile, a quiet strength stirred within me. Not anger, not sadness, but liberation. That first night, I slept more soundly than I had in years. And when I woke, I didn't make breakfast for anyone. I didn't iron clothes or answer to the voice calling Evelyn from another room. I simply sat on the porch with a hot cup of tea and watched the new day begin. For the first time, I chose silence and found it comforting, not lonely. Days turned into weeks. My hands instinctively reached for old yarn, for dusty crochet hooks hidden in drawers I hadn't opened in years. I started crocheting again, not for others, but for myself. Each loop felt like a silent prayer, a homecoming, a healing. Then one day, at the farmer's market, I ran into Hazel, an old family friend, who had cared for my mother in her final years. Noticing my handmade scarf, she gasped. "Did you make that?" she asked, her eyes wide with wonder. "You should teach. We need people like you at our community center." I brushed off her words at first. "Me? Teach?" I asked, not believing my ears. But something about her genuine encouragement struck a chord, and I answered tentatively. "Yes." I taught my first crochet lesson 2 weeks later. Only 6 women gathered in the room, mostly my age. Their hands were timid and unsure. But as we crocheted together, we shared our stories of broken marriages, empty nests, forgotten birthdays, and the quiet courage it takes to start over at 60, 65, 70. They didn't need a perfect teacher. They needed someone who understood, and I did. At the end of the session, one woman hugged me tightly and whispered, "You made me feel like I still matter." I went home that day with tears in my eyes. But this time, they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of hope. I thought my life had ended the day I left Walter. But it turned out it was just beginning. My second life began quietly, subtly, with yarn in my hands and stories shared between stitches. Just weeks after starting the classes at the community center, our little crochet circle was growing faster than I could have imagined. Word spread. Soon, women I'd never seen before began to appear. Widows, retirees, grandmothers. Each brought not only hooks and yarn, but a hunger for connection, a need for purpose, for something that was just theirs. I wasn't just teaching them patterns. We were sharing our lives, talking about loss, sacrifice, and dreams put on hold for others. For the first time in years, I felt needed, not because I was serving someone else's needs, but because I could be myself, authentic, unapologetic. Then Hazel had another idea. "What if we created a small brand?" she suggested one afternoon, her eyes twinkling mischievously behind her glasses. "People love your work, and it's not just the quality, Evelyn. There's soul in them, a story in every piece." She was right. I was weaving my life into every scarf, blanket, throw pillow, my pain, my resilience, my strength. So we did it. Knots and Threads, a small studio for handmade fiber art. We created an online store, and Naomi, my tech-savvy assistant, helped us organize weekly live streams. "Just talk while you crochet," she said. "People like to see a real person." At first, I was terrified. What could I offer this world of influencers and flawless video content? But as I sat in front of that tiny camera, crocheting and quietly talking about texture, color, and my pain, the comments poured in. "This is like therapy. I'm 67, and I just signed up for a crochet class because of you. You remind me that it's never too late." I wasn't just teaching craft anymore. I was helping women reclaim pieces of themselves they had long buried. The studio grew. We sold out of everything. Then came requests for custom designs, invitations to local art fairs, and even an article in a regional magazine called "Silver Thread Women Reinventing Retirement." But it wasn't about the recognition. Not entirely. For the first time, I woke up in the morning excited, not for someone else, but for myself. I even saved enough to do something I never dreamed of. I finally got dental implants. No more struggling to eat. No more hiding my smile. The day I walked out of the dentist's office, I went straight to a cafe down the street and ordered a crispy fried chicken sandwich and a warm orange pie. I savored every bite. With every bite, every new taste, every confident smile, I felt something coming back to me. My voice, my body, my place in this world. Not as a wife, not as someone's mother, but just as Evelyn, whole, free, and finally seen. 3 years after the divorce, standing in my sunlit kitchen, hands covered in flour, fresh pastries cooling on racks, I realized I hadn't just rebuilt my life. I had created the one I always deserved. No more shouting, no more tiptoeing. No one to tell me I was too sensitive, too much, or too old to start over. I had created something with my own hands, a studio, a community, a legacy. And for the first time, the love I gave was coming back to me. Every message from a woman saying, "You gave me hope." Every workshop where laughter drowned out shame. Every stitch in every scarf, as if saying to someone, "You are not alone." I no longer needed validation from people who had never seen me. I was seen by those who truly mattered. Myself. And just when I thought the world had finally wrapped me up like a soft blanket, life, as usual, knocked on the door again. One Sunday after lunch, the doorbell rang. I thought it was Lila, Hazel, or a delivery person. But when I opened the door, Olivia was standing on the doorstep. She looked so different, haggard, pale, like a faded version of herself. Her voice trembled as she said, "Mom, I can't do this anymore." She walked into the house and collapsed on the couch. For the first time since her tumultuous youth, she cried in front of me. Through sobs, she told me the bitter truth of what had happened after I left. She had tried to hold everything together, her family, her perfect image, her followers, but it had all crumbled to dust. Brenda had drained her father's accounts, manipulated him like a puppet, and then disappeared as soon as the money was gone. Her father had suffered a heart attack and now barely spoke. Her marriage had fallen apart. Sponsors had turned away. Her carefully constructed life, woven from lies, had collapsed under its own weight. "Mom," she whispered, "now I see. We didn't deserve you. I didn't deserve you. I'm sorry." I listened to her, and for a moment, I saw something familiar in her. Not my daughter, not a social media star, but just a woman. A woman desperately trying to find her way after the crushing loss of everything she had. I didn't rush to hug her, didn't try to hastily heal her wounds. Instead, I handed Olivia a glass of water, sat beside her, and quietly said, "It's not too late, Olivia. It's never too late." That night, back in my room, I opened my journal and wrote just one sentence. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It's a conscious choice to live free from what they may not have even realized they broke. Because I no longer felt anger or sadness. I felt whole, and I knew it for sure.